When I became an entrepreneur, I wouldn't even call myself an entrepreneur. I had a lot of imposter syndrome coming into it because, truth be told, I also had never met an entrepreneur that looked like me, and definitely not a lot of female entrepreneurs at that point. So I had a very hard time identifying as one. And it wasn't until, when I started to have these sort of stops and starts and climbs and loss, etc., that I started to embrace just how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. And I think that then I was sort of proud to wear that badge. And I think it was, it was a little later for me that I really started to stand in my light and stop playing small with owning that part of myself.
That's Nyakio Grieco, the beauty industry leader who co-founded 13 Lune, the e-commerce platform dedicated to the discovery of beauty brands created by Black and brown founders that resonate with people of all colors. And this is Make Yourself at Home, the podcast that takes you into the homes of people you admire to show you a side you don't usually get to see. I'm Kristen Twyford, and every week we'll talk to someone at the top of their career to explore holistic success and how work and home are inextricably intertwined. Along the way, we hope to inspire you to live well, whatever that means to you. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, the household management app designed to help you manage your home and everything that comes with it, so you can live with ease. Today, we're at Nyakio Grieco's home in Los Angeles, where she lives with her husband and 2 kids. She moved here right after college and worked in Hollywood at a talent agency before giving herself a promotion and launching her own beauty brand, Nyakio. 20 years later, Nyakio is making space for Black and brown beauty founders through 13 Lune, the platform she co-founded in 2020 with Patrick Herning. And less than 2 years later, she just launched a clean, inclusive skincare brand, Relevant, Your Skin Scene. Nyakio's first products started close to home, honoring the beauty secrets of her grandparents. And today, she's changing the conversation on a world stage. In this conversation, she shares her journey with operating from a place of confidence rather than fear, why she practices gratitude and prioritizes rest, and how aligning passion and purpose has fueled her success. Make Yourself at Home with Nyakio Grieco. Nyakio, thank you so much for having us into your home. We're so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, tell us a little bit about your home and what you love about it.
Yeah. I think that, as the saying goes, home is where the heart is. And it is definitely, even despite the last couple of frenetic years, really just my happy place. I love, we live in Los Angeles, but we live in a neighborhood that really reminds me of the neighborhood I grew up in Oklahoma, in the way that, it's all about community. It's a place that, my kids, I feel safe, with them being outside in the front yard or walking to the main street to get ice cream. And so finding that here in the center of Los Angeles, I think has just been one of the greatest blessings and gifts. And even though there's a lot of change that needs to happen here in LA, I'm still really deeply excited to live here.
And you moved there right after college. It seems
Yes.
like the city was calling you. What about LA feels like home to you?
Yeah, I came out here when I was a senior in college with some friends on spring break. And I had been to LA with my mom when I was a little girl. She had to come out here for work, I think, when I was in junior high, and really fell in love with the palm trees and the beach. But it was when I came out that senior year of college that I had some job offers that would have taken me to other places, and no job offers here in LA at that time. But I really felt from day one, even before I lived here, that what I appreciated the most about Los Angeles is it's the city of dreamers. You have permission to be whoever you want to be, and you can be a jack of all trades. You could work at a restaurant but still be a writer. You can work at a hotel and still be a singer. And I just was always attracted to the city because I felt that as a dreamer myself, that even though I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to be when I grew up, at that moment, I felt that I could come here and be anything I set my mind to.
And I think you're such an example of that in your own career, making your own dreams a reality. But then you lift up so many other people who have a dream too. What does that mean to you to be able to work with people who, might not have had a platform before some of the work that you have been able to do?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've been a beauty founder for 21 years and spent, most of the, 18 years that I was solely working on my first brand being so single brand focused and all of the wins and challenges that came along with it. And when we were in the midst of a global pandemic and the midst of a racial reckoning in the year 2020 and 13 Lune was conceived, I really created as a beauty founder the retailer that I always wanted to have myself. And in doing so, it allowed me to be in service to helping others get to success much quicker than I ever dreamed of. And I think, working with our founders, 90% of the brands we carry at 13 Lune are created by people of color from around the globe who make products for everyone, and 10% are dedicated to fostering allyship. And so with working with all of our founders, it was sort of, for me, just the opportunity to finally, after all of these years, align my purpose and passion, but also be part of a community and a camaraderie to be a real catalyst for change within the industry. And as a Black female founder, I was often the only at shelf when I launched Nyakio into various retailers, and especially being in premium beauty, there weren't a lot of founders that looked like me. And what I love so much about 13 Lune is not only am I a retailer, but I also am still a beauty founder, and I get to be surrounded by so many like-minded people, but also people who are driven to make the beauty industry more inclusive as a community and as a team. And and it does warm my heart that I can make it maybe a little easier for some than I ever had it, but it was only having the experience that I had that really opened me up to really embracing this opportunity and having the gift of it creating such joy for myself and so many others.
And you just launched another brand, Relevant Your Skin Scene, which really fits perfectly with all of that too. And that theme, your skin scene, such a lovely tagline and such a nice concept. And the industry is in a different place now with this launch than when you launched Nyakio. But your life is in such a different place too. How, looking at where you were when you first launched Nyakio and where you are now in your professional career, but also in your life in general, it looks totally different. And so how did it feel and how does it compare to that moment when you launched Nyakio?
Yeah, with launching Relevant Your Skin Scene and 13 Lune, I would say the similarities of when I first launched Nyakio Beauty is that I'm just in such a place of hope and excitement to set out on a path to do something that I dreamed about. I'd say the differences and where I am personally and professionally is that I finally feel at peace. There were so many moments in creating Nyakio Beauty that I did get the huge blessing of experiencing such joy and such wins, but there were so many challenges, whether it be having to stop and start so many times because I couldn't even get in the room when it came to access to capital, and the frustration of having sort of a proven concept but still not being able to be funded and supported in the way that I felt that myself and so many others deserved. And so, I always joke that, when I worked in Hollywood before I ever had a beauty brand, I really struggled to get like that quote unquote promotion. And so personally, I feel like, okay, I had to give myself that promotion, but in doing so, I'm opening up a world of possibilities, not only for myself, but for others to create generational wealth and to help debunk the myth that Black and brown people only make products for Black and brown people, and to help to desegregate the beauty aisle, all of these things, from a personal standpoint, it just makes me feel very aligned and in purpose. And, I think for any job that we do, when you can really focus on how you can better serve the collective while still doing something that you love, that's the secret sauce. That's the magic. And I'm just so lucky that I get to do that every day.
Yeah. When you were younger and you're a little girl growing up, do you think that's what you dreamed about? Did you picture a career that would be, serving others? Or is this something that came along later?
Yeah, I've always been, even as a little girl, I was a hugger at the Special Olympics. I was like the youngest member of the United Way board in high school. I've always, and that's so much a part of my upbringing. My parents are always raised us to be in service of others and to help make the world a better place, as cliche as that sounds, that we all have the ability to help raise others up, and that someone's always got it harder than you do. And so, all of those things were definitely part of my DNA and my upbringing. But I think also being a first generation American, like many cultures, especially when you have parents that work hard to come to this country and provide a better life for you away from their loved ones, there is this expectation that you're going to go into a more traditional career role, being a lawyer, being a doctor, being an engineer, none of which I was interested in. I think for a minute I thought maybe I'll be a lawyer because I'm really good at arguing, but it wasn't something that I truly wanted to pursue. And I think being an entrepreneur, my grandmother taught me my first beauty secrets when I went to Kenya to visit her at the age of 8 using coffee beans from her farm. She was a Kenyan coffee farmer. And so I always loved the idea of creating. I got my first glitter nail polish kit when I was in second grade. And I would just hawk glitter nail polish around the neighborhood. And I always wanted lemonade stands and bake stands and car washes. So I had that somewhat of an entrepreneurial spirit, but I don't think I could identify it until I actually became an entrepreneur. And even in becoming an entrepreneur, the reason that I started my original brand, Nyakio, was because I felt that the continent of Africa was very underrepresented in premium beauty in the early 2000s. And so I created the brand because I wanted to celebrate the sophistication of Africa and share my family beauty secrets and recipes. And so there was always a reason for being. But truth be told, when I became an entrepreneur, I wouldn't even call myself an entrepreneur. When people would say, oh, meet my friend Nyakio, she's an entrepreneur, I'd say, oh, I just have I make a coffee scrub or I make beauty products. Like I had a lot of imposter syndrome coming into it because truth be told, I also had never met an entrepreneur that looked like me, and definitely not a lot of female entrepreneurs at that point. So I had a very hard time identifying as one. And it wasn't until, and I was in my 20s and then my 30s. And then, when I started to have these sort of stops and starts and climbs and loss, et cetera, that I started to embrace just how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. And I think that then I was sort of proud to wear that badge because it is not for the faint of heart. And as my mom always says, who doesn't want to be their own boss? If it was easy, everybody would do it. And
right.
And I think it was, it was a little later for me that I really started to stand in my light and stop playing small with owning that part of myself.
And you were relentless in building Nyakio, and you had a lot of challenges along the way, and you kept trying and kept making it happen. Where do you think that relentless spirit comes from?
Well, I'm an Aries, but I also think that I was so blessed to be born to two very hardworking educators. My dad was an author and started the African Studies program at Oklahoma, and my mom, to this day, is still a dean. Education was always instilled in us as a way to freedom and empowerment. And so, I got to witness a lot of hardworking people in my life who, even when things didn't go their way, always got back up. And, I say this a lot in interviews that I have a real trigger to the word failure. And use the example that when my children were learning to ride bikes and they would fall down, I didn't say, get up, you failed. I would say, the only failure is not getting back up on the bike. And I think from even before becoming a mother, that has always been sort of my attachment to those fall down moments. And I'm human, and there's been plenty of tears and moments where, I would say to myself, I quit, I'm not doing this. But there was always something in me that wanted to get back up, not to prove to others, but to prove to myself that I could. And I think that resilience is, we only have this one life to live right now. And why not get back up even when times are hard? And what I also have learned in my journey is that when you get back up and you get back up on that bike and you find a new path, it always leads you to something better. And even if that's temporary, it's always better than what you've just left. And so I think that resilience just comes from practice. When you fall down a lot, you have to have resilience to get back up. And it's a muscle that you just, I think, have to work your entire life.
Definitely. And I'm sure you saw that in Hollywood too, with that rejection, seeing that over and over again.
Yes, definitely. And not only from, the actors. I think I would get more upset when they didn't get roles, the actors that I used to work with, and they did, because I'm also sensitive. But I think it does make you stronger. And when certain moments end and you're devastated in the moment, and you can kind of reframe yourself to let your ego get out of the way and be open to possibility, that goodness follows.
Mm-hmm. And so much of your work is so personal to you. So thinking about your grandparents and getting to share their beauty secrets with the world in this beauty brand that you've built, that has to be an amazing feeling to be able to honor them and celebrate them. Were you able to share that with them? And were they able to see what you've turned it into?
Yeah, so when my grandmother Nyakio, my grandfather's passed away before I was born. My grandmother Nyakio and my mother's mom, my grandmother Alice Nyakamba, they did know when I started Nyakio. And so Nyakio, my grandmother, who I actually named the brand after, not her myself, I named it after her,
right.
Was very, very proud. She never got to come see it in real life in the States, but she definitely had some jars of coffee scrub brought to her in Kenya. And I think for, being a child that is a first generation American and being born in New York, raised in Oklahoma, I didn't get the privilege of seeing my grandparents every holiday, every weekend, picking me up from school, coming to my recitals and things like that. And so Nyakio really, as a brand, brought for me personally a connection to my family that really deepened my love for my heritage and ultimately made me feel closer to family that I didn't get the chance to spend a whole lot of time with growing up.
Wow. Very amazing. And when your work is so personal to you, and then at the same time it's changing a conversation in an industry, in the country, it's making an impact, I feel like it could feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, where it has to be a lot of pressure. How do you make sure that you're not taking your work home with you too much? How do you find balance? Is it hard? Do you feel like it's always with you? It's always something on your mind?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I've definitely have had to find a relationship with the work and the change that I'm trying to help facilitate in this world, and the pressures of ignorance, people's unwillingness to change, old paradigms going down swinging. And I think what I practice the most is just not personalizing it. That's other people's stuff, Yeah. There are racists in the world. There are people who write big checks that don't believe that they need to open their checkbook a little further. There are, people who still don't understand that, Black and brown people make products for everyone, just like the products that we use that are made by people who don't look like us. I mean, there are definitely frustrating times and moments, but by not personalizing it and just sort of staying true to my vision, to the mission, understanding that there are more good people in the world than there are bad. And I know at times that's hard for some of us to believe. I've found the helpers. I found the good people. I have incredible mentors. I have the most amazing co-founder in 13 Lune. And then I have all of these incredible founders that said yes to 13 Lune. I have my partnership with J.C. Penney, who saw us when we were only 90 days old and asked us to partner with them. And so I really try to focus on the positivity, on the good, whether it be our PR team and how hard they work to get our story out, and those that just happen to find us by accident and their joy and excitement of feeling seen. I just really try to stay focused on that and not get caught up in the minutia of things that I can't change, because you can't change people who aren't willing to expand and to grow. And so, and that goes beyond work. That goes, from everything that we're dealing with and seeing in the world. But, as far as balance goes, I definitely often say I don't really believe in the word balance, because when you are an entrepreneur, when you're a mother, a wife, a friend, a sister, a daughter, there's only 100% of us. And sometimes work is going to get 80% because work needs 80% right now. And sometimes I have to just shut off and my family's getting 100%, and so on and so forth. But, I think what's most important is prioritizing whatever I need to do to alleviate or calm anxiety or not get too wrapped up. And a lot of that comes to rest. I have to rest. I nap all the time. I spent this weekend, I think Friday night, I went to bed at 9:30. Saturday night, I went to bed at 10, slept for like 8-9 hours each night. Like, I have to have those recharging moments. Meditation is really important to me. I'm sure I'm not alone with a lot of people in the world where sometimes I wake up at 3:00 in the morning completely anxious. And so meditation really helps to calm my mind. Laughing, spending time with my girlfriends, my kids, my husband, and prioritizing my female relationships is, I think, something that as we get older, it's harder to do. But, I still take trips with my friends. We still do girls' nights. We still talk on the phone like teenagers. And I think all of that really does make up my 100%.
Can you think of a moment where you were going through a particularly tough time professionally, and then your home or your personal life or your girlfriends really got you out of that moment and lifted you up and reminded you, oh, I'm going to get through this?
Yeah. I mean, there's been, some more challenging times than others. And yes, I mean, when I've gone through one of my transitions with my original brand where I really felt like this is the end, and for many reasons, how detrimental that was to myself and to my family. And then COVID happened, and that was like the universal reset for those of us that got to survive this time. And my husband got very sick in the very early days of COVID, and we weren't sure he was going to make it at one point. And it was those moments that you just, it was a global pandemic. Like, we were all scared to be in the same room with anyone. This was, very early March, April 2020. And, to open my door and see food on the front porch, or to have, people reaching out to doctors and specialists to try to help my husband, who ultimately is fine now. And to find a co-founder that, when we were able to connect and socially distance and share our ideas about what 13 Lune could be, and to get on board, and to the investors. And early on, many of those investors for 13 Lune were our friends or friends of friends and celebrities and angels that said yes. And I've never raised that amount of money in 2 weeks in my life. I feel like, having that moment with my brand, that I was had been such a part of my identity for 18 years, and while still continuing to work on it, but no longer own it, was hard for me. It opened up a possibility for 13 Lune to come to life, as well as so deepened my relationships with others. And I don't know that if we didn't have the time to sort of slow down in 2020 because of the global pandemic, that I would have even had the space to welcome in all the blessings and the gifts and the opportunity to create something new. And obviously I have the most supportive husband and kids that are so proud of their mom. Even though she works really hard and has to travel a lot, they are so proud to be a part of it. And it's great. And then I have the best girlfriends in the world. And, you know, what I really appreciate about my friendships with my girlfriends is that we actively listen to one another and we always show up for one another. We're really honest with each other, both in good times and bad. And while I feel that my circle's gotten a little smaller as I've gotten older, qualitatively, it's gotten so much more dynamic, like more than I could have ever dreamed of.
You mentioned earlier how your relationships with your girlfriends have sort of deepened and it's become more of a priority as you've gotten older. Why do you think that's so important in this moment? Why do those friendships really help you at this stage of your life?
Yeah, I think, women, I'm all about the divine feminine, and when women come together, magic happens. And as much as I love to be a doer, I'm an observer as well. I love to observe behavior and figure out, how it's affecting my life or how I can better my life by listening and being an observer. And one of the things that I've really noticed, and I don't know if this is like now being almost 50 years old, that I find very sad, is that women sometimes operate from a place of scarcity and fear. And that translates into not truly being supportive of one another. And I have been so lucky to formed relationships, many of which are decades and decades long, with women who truly support women. And what I find is that when we all come together and we show up for each other and we vote in consideration of each other, we make change happen and positive change. And the more that we realize that there's room for all of us and we become less competitive with one another and only just compete with ourselves, then there's just more joy. And I find it sad that some women haven't sort of realized that yet, and I witness it happening sadly a lot, even at my age.
Yeah.
But what I will say, coming from a place of hope, is that I think that even though women have sort of had a really hard time as of late, when I look at the next generation, like my daughter and her friends who are 16, and what powerful, strong young women they are already, it gives me hope for the future for women and how in generations to come that I don't think that we maybe will deal with some of the things that I've seen in my lifetime.
And I know you're also on the board of Girls Inc. LA.
Yes.
And so lifting up other women is really important to you. When you're mentoring and working with other women, what is, some of the wisdom that you're always trying to pass on? What do you find that you're kind of repeating over and over again when you're talking with other women?
Yeah, I mean, to always come from a place of authenticity and hope and courage is important. But I'd say the most important thing is to come from a place where you truly, truly learn to love yourself, because in truly loving yourself is where your confidence comes from. I also find that women often don't like to ask for help, that we like to be the helpers, but the more you allow yourself to ask for help and to ask for help, not even just for yourself, but on behalf of others. And that's why I love being on the board of Girls Inc. and working with different charities to ask for help. The more fulfilled your life is, and the more people that you can help and inspire and show, in the case of Girls Inc., when I'm with those girls, if they can look at me and my path and the path of the others that I bring along for the ride and see themselves in us, that means that they know they can do it too. And if they know they can do it too, that means that when they become adults, they're going to take up more space And then that will get us to a better place of equality. And, while I love the men in my life and I'm raising a little boy as well, I think it's just so, so, so important that women own their power and stand in their confidence and believe that they can do it. And, that's sort of what I share, because I've done the opposite in my own life at times, and it didn't help, and it didn't move me further in my path. It taught me some lessons, but I'll tell you, it's a lot better to come from a place of confidence. And it doesn't mean you have to know everything, and it doesn't mean you have to succeed at everything that you do. But if you come from a place of confidence, when you don't succeed, you're still able to get back up and try again.
I think so many women struggle to love themselves, and so many women doubt themselves. Do you think that is, you mentioned your own journey with that. Is that something that, you were kind of brought up to do? Your parents really taught you how to love yourself from a very young age? Or do you think it's been a journey for you and you had sort of an aha moment that helped you come to that place?
Yeah. I mean, yes, my parents definitely taught me to love myself and to be proud of myself and to love others as I would want to be loved. So I think that, being instilled in me, but, I was still a teenager and in my 20s. I mean, my friends and I talk about it all the time now that we're all inching towards 50 and still so proud of where we're at in our lives. But, gosh, I wish I would have appreciated my mind, my body, my looks, my brain, all of it more when I was in my 20s, because I was sharp. I remembered things. I had so much energy. And who cares what size I was or what, jean size you were, any of those things that used to just or how far I was in my career in a way that I was so hard on myself, that, I think now what was instilled in me at an early age is now aligning with what I've learned in my journey. And I just, I hope for young girls that it doesn't take them that long to learn to love themselves, because then you just waste all this time and have missed opportunities to do better for yourself and others when you're so self-absorbed or you're so in your unhealthy part of your ego that you just miss out on life, and you make poor decisions. You make poor decisions about who you allow into your life. You make poor decisions about not listening to your gut and trusting the wrong people or situations. And so the more confidence you have, the more power that you have to make the right choices for yourself and for others.
Can you think of a moment or a decision that you made along the way that has been really key to your happiness today?
My gosh. Yeah. I mean, I think marrying my husband, definitely. And not because I credit him for my happiness per se, but I married my best friend, and I married somebody that respected me, that championed my goals. I mean, when he was my boyfriend, before he was my husband, he would come over every night and pack boxes with me and take them to UPS and help me unpack things into a public storage, and, really gave me the space to be my own person in our relationship. And I think when we think about relationships, whether it be friends, partners, etc., that is a catalyst. Making the right choice in relationships, if you so choose to be in relationship with others, is one of the smartest choices you can make for yourself, is to choose one where there's an equality and support for one another to live out your own dreams while also creating dreams together.
That is amazing. And it sounds like you guys have a very strong relationship to this day, and that your family is very close. How does your family support you, through all of these big professional moves? I know when you started Nyakio, it was before you were married, and then now you started these 2 new brands. You've got 2 kids at home. You've got a lot to balance, a lot on your plate, and then you're launching 2 big brands right around the same time. That had to be a lot to keep up with.
It is. It is. I mean, I definitely don't cook as much as I did when we were locked down. I learned how to bake. I didn't know I could bake. I made every single meal, collectively with the family. And so I sometimes mourn those days. But, it takes a village. And I think the most important thing is that David and I have raised very independent kids. And they have their own dreams and their own goals. I mean, my daughter's working on her own beauty brand right now at the age of 16. And, I think, it takes a village. And I'm definitely not perfect. I mean, there will be laundry baskets that sit for days. And if I don't empty my suitcase the minute I get home, it might be sitting there for a week. But what I will say is that we work in collaboration with one another and we ask for help. And we have amazing caretaker for our kids that really is our family. I'm so lucky to have support within my staff, our 13 Lune family, a co-founder, which I've never had before, which is a dream come true. We are very aligned. Yeah, very aligned in our roles. And we, and I think more than anything, and obviously my friends, my mom flies to town from time to time when I'm going to be gone for too long. My sister-in-law lives in LA and picks up the slack. So, we're fortunate that we can ask for added help when we need it. And that, we've taught our children, how to do the laundry and empty the dishwasher and sit down and do their homework without being asked. And, but also we, sometimes we let all that go by the wayside and we just hang out and have fun and know that it's not about having the most perfectly clean home or the most perfect aesthetic in every single room at all times. It's about the love that fills the home that makes it work.
I want to get back to what you said about your daughter. How cool is that for you that she's already following in your footsteps at 16?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It was her idea. I'm so excited about it. It's in a category that I've never created in before. So I'm learning so much from her and she's learned a lot. She loves science and she loves art and she loves beauty. So it's sort of a culmination of her passion. She's really tapping into her family heritage in the same way with her great grandparents. And it makes me really proud. And it makes me the most proud that she's taking the lead on it, that she asked to be introduced to a chemist, that she has her own Zooms when she's not at school, working on the brand, both creatively and formula-wise. So I'm excited for her to bring it to fruition and be here as a mentor to her. I think it's really amazing. My husband's Irish Italian and a little bit of French, and I'm Kenyan. And I think when we look at the world and that 1 in 5 children being born today are multiracial, it's really cool to see how she's taking her life experience, growing up in the body that she's growing up in, and using it to translate into her dreams and her brand and her messaging, which is amazing.
That is so cool. When people are watching your career unfold, they're probably in awe of everything that you have been able to accomplish and seeing, the incredible success that you've had. What do you think would surprise people about the person you are at home?
I mean, I don't know. What would surprise people? I mean, I feel like I'm super goofy on social media and things like that. I mean, I think that people would be surprised by how much I sleep. I mean, sometimes it triggers me sometimes when people will say, and it's probably just the way I'm receiving it. I'm sure people don't always mean to be, but I get very triggered when people project like, how do you do it all? Oh my gosh, are you ever home? Like, when do you rest? It triggers me because that's my ego. Also, it triggers me as a woman because I'm like, how many people ask men that? Like,
so
how
true.
do you do it all, right? But it triggers me, whether it be my own ego or not. I'm still working on that and figuring that out in therapy. But I think people would be surprised, other than the people who live in my house, how much I can sleep. And I'm one of those people that was really, and it's the only way I can do it all. Like all that I do is I don't do it all, but I can do all that I do and do it with energy and with, excitement and joy is that I rest so much. But I'm one of those people that can just fall asleep anywhere. Like if my husband's driving, I fall asleep in the car, even if it's a 15-minute drive. I take naps pretty much like at least 5 times a week. even if I don't go to bed early, I plan to not have an early morning so then I can try to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I think people would be surprised at how much I rest because, my friends know because you can see it on social media. Like if I'm posting, because I do my own for Nyakio, my personal Instagram page, but when I don't post on my feed for, 3 or 4 days, that usually means that I'm home. And it means that I'm present and I'm, off, social media. I'm very blessed to have a team that helps me with Relevant and 13 Lune. But, I'm like, don't believe the hype. Just because you see me in New York one day and Chicago the next day and Texas, maybe that's how it played out. Or maybe it just means I'm catching up on my social media. And so, yeah, I think prioritizing rest and how much I do it definitely surprises people, especially like, just because when you are this busy, it is hard to prioritize rest. But I learned very early on in my career when I wasn't doing that, how detrimental it was to my mental health and to my physical health. And it just, then you just don't enjoy it. If you're tired when you're working all the time, and I do get tired, but it doesn't, your output isn't as strong and you're not enjoying it as much. And so, yeah, I think people will be surprised about how much I like to sleep.
I really love that answer, and I'm going to take a page out of your book. I really like that.
It's key, though. You can never nap for more than 30 minutes. That's the key. Set your alarm for like 30. I usually try to do it like it's weird times, like 33 minutes, 35 minutes, because it takes me about 7 minutes to fall asleep. And then I'll sleep for like 25 minutes, and then I'll give myself like 4 or 5 minutes to get up. But if you let it go longer, then you're shot for the rest of the day. Unless it's the weekend, then sleep all you want. But it's that little power nap. Power nap is a real thing.
Yes. And is your alarm something like nice and cheerful, or is it kind of really alarming?
No, I mean, I my daughter has like all these fun songs that make you laugh when you wake up, and it puts her in a good mood. Yeah. And I'm just so basic. I just like whatever my Apple phone. I'm not very technologically savvy, and so I'm sure I could figure out a way to make it better, but it's just that annoying. So you do want to get up sound on your iPhone, and I'm not a snoozer. I'm like, once it's up, because if I try to snooze, then I get more irritated that I snooze. Like when I'm up, I'm up.
Yep, I think that's a good tip too. I think the snooze is bad.
Yeah, my husband snoozes and it drives me crazy. That is after 22 years of knowing this man. I'm like, please stop.
Well, I guess of all the things, it's okay to live with that, but that is annoying.
It is. I hope he hears this.
I'll leave it in just for him. That sounds good. Thinking about prioritizing, you were talking about, what you prioritize now. Do you find that you're prioritizing differently now and you're striving to make more time for certain things and then you're saying no to other things?
Yeah. Saying no. I was a chronic people pleaser for most of my life. That sort of goes back into that bucket of like confidence and not knowing and until probably a little too late in life where I just said yes to everything because I don't want to miss it. I don't want it to hurt their feelings, blah, blah, blah. And so that was also at a time where I wasn't prioritizing rest and you could feel the effects physically and emotionally. One thing I would say when it comes to exercise, I definitely think that it's so important to move your body. I don't know who said this to me once in my life, like just do something that makes you sweat every day, whether it's a 10-minute walk, doing some planks or whatever, just sweat every day. It's good for your body. I don't know who told me that, but I keep sharing it. But I used to be so militant about, I'd fall in love with a workout program and I would do it like 5 to 7 times a week. And even if I didn't like it or didn't feel right for my body, I would just keep doing it because I'd made the commitment and I was really obsessed with the results. I think that comes from being a dancer growing up. But I will say now that like, it sounds silly, but I just prioritize moving my body in ways that I think can multitask, right? So as opposed to doing like some ridiculously hard, cardio program that is, of commitment of 5 days a week, I love to hike. I love to take walks. I love to do it alone. I enjoy it with a girlfriend from time to time, but I love it alone, whether I'm listening to music or I'm just out in nature with my dogs, sometimes not with my dogs, just to have a time that kind of connects me back to the earth and grounds me. And so I don't put the same sort of pressure on the results of exercise from like a physicality, what you look like in the mirror standpoint. I do it more for total mind, body, spirit. And I think prioritizing mental health. I mean, I've kind of gone to therapy on and off in my 20s, not as much as I should have in my 30s, but really starting in my 40s, really prioritizing therapy, couples therapy, understanding my relationship to myself, my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my kids, and having a safe space to do it. It used to be like, oh, I'll go to therapy when I have a problem. And now it's an ongoing maintenance. That's definitely helped. I developed anxiety in my 40s, I think, when I was going through some hormonal changes and life circumstances. And that's really helped me to kind of stay as even keeled as possible.
Amazing. And you seem very mindful and grateful and reflective, which I think is just a really lovely quality. How do you practice gratitude on a regular basis?
Yeah, so I started doing this thing called circling, which has become more mainstream now, but in my 20s and all my friends that didn't circle were like, what's this weird circling thing that you girls do? But I started circling. My friend Andrea Bendewald started leading women's circles really in the beginning for like us and our group of friends. And then now she's really turned it into a practice where she does it professionally and for businesses, for strangers, etc. But, the art of circling really involves just, kind of using a talking stick. Whoever has it has the floor. We manifest, we wish, we heal, and we really spend a lot of time being in gratitude. And so it's a practice that I've had for the last 20 plus years in my life that I think has really helped me to center prioritizing gratitude first and foremost. And it's a practice. And so the more you practice being in gratitude, the more aware you are for your own gratitude, but to help position yourself to help others be in a place of gratitude, by helping them out of a tough situation, by showing them what gratitude looks like. And, gratitude isn't always just the great things that are happening. It's a practice to be grateful for the challenging things that have happened. And while I may not be super grateful for the challenging people in my life, I'm still working on that. I pray for their success. I want the best for them. But I will say that, even in the hardest times and circumstances that I've had, challenging times that I've had, I do find that now I'm so grateful for them because they have led me to where I am today. And had I not had certain situations, whether it be with people, whether it be with circumstances, whether it be of my own doing, I wouldn't have learned the lesson and I wouldn't have chosen different. I would have probably kept doing the same thing over and over again until the lesson was learned. And so now I'm like, thank you for that challenge. I'm not doing that again, or I'm not choosing that again. And next, because that's when I think that we get in this cycle of being not gracious because you feel like a victim, whereas opposed to just being, and there are certain things that are absolutely categorically challenges that you can't be grateful for. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, challenges, whether it be in relationships or work, et cetera, that don't cause you, too much physical or mental anguish that you can be grateful for because they always lead you to a better choice if you so allow it.
Amazing. And today, you mentioned you're approaching 50 and you are at this incredible place in your career and in your life. What does holistic success look like to you? What does a life well lived look like to you today?
Well, I think a life well lived is waking up in gratitude. Today was my last day on earth. I'm just so grateful. But I also think that a life well lived is, what I said earlier, it's being able to align your passion with your purpose and make a significant difference in the lives of others and potentially the world. And I think that we all have the ability to do that. And it's not, we are not all the Warren Buffetts and Bill Gateses and Oprahs of the world, but we all have the ability to make it a better place. And we all have the ability to make the climate a more livable place and save it. We all have the ability to inspire the next generation. And so if you practice, I say this to people, like, even if you have a pizza shop, like, what makes your pizza so special? What authentic message are you spreading to the world? How is your pizza giving back to others? What kind of community are you creating at your pizza shop? It's possible for every single human on this earth, even those that are less fortunate, because someone's always got it harder than you do.
Yep. Well, this has been amazing. I want to get into our lightning round of fun questions.
Yes! I love lightning
Thank you
rounds.
for just a really wonderful conversation. I just think you have an amazing perspective.
You.
So
that
was great.
Okay,
so are you ready for your lightning round?
Ready.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So first off, would you call yourself a homebody?
No.
No. Why?
I mean, I love being home, but I love to travel. So I was going to say yes, because home is where I am the happiest, but then I just love to travel. Like, if I'm home for too long, I'm like, where are we going? What can we see? Should we get in the car and drive somewhere? So yeah, my husband's a homebody, but I'm not a homebody.
What's your go-to self-care ritual?
Skincare.
Is there a part of your own skincare regimen that you dread? Like, anything you do every day that you're like, I don't want to do that part?
Yeah. I would never fall asleep with my makeup on, but sometimes when I'm really tired, I dread taking my makeup off.
Me too.
I can't
That's
do
the
it.
one I dread.
I can't do it. Nor should you ever just fall asleep with your makeup on. I've even had moments where I'm like, I'm just going to lay here for a minute, and if I fall asleep, I guess I didn't wash my face. And I cannot do it. But there are days, like, I will feel it, like, in the Uber on the way home, like,
yes.
Hence the reason I don't wear makeup
that.
every day. I do wash I wash my face every night, but, like, it's really kind of a decision factor in, like, not wanting to wear makeup every day, because I don't want to wash it off every night. And I will.
I totally understand. What was something that you treasured as a little girl?
Elephants. I collect elephants.
Oh,
And so elephant
cool.
stuffed animals when I was little, elephant figurines, elephant carvings, elephants with their trunk up, because that's represents success.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that. Oh, cool. There's so much good elephant symbolism. That's a really good one. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Very cool.
elephants. I think it's also part of being Kenyan. I loved elephants when we go on safari. It was my favorite.
That's so cool. They are majestic. They're the coolest animals. What's your favorite room in the house?
My bedroom.
Why?
That's where I sleep.
Full circle.
Full circle. Full circle. It
I
is.
love it.
It's the first place I go when I get home from a trip, is just like throw my stuff down, rinse off, and lay in my bed. Yeah.
I love it.
I love my bed.
What's your household pet peeve?
Oh my gosh. Household pet peeve, leaving the lights on. Like when people just leave all the lights on. I think that comes straight from my parents. Turn off the lights. You're wasting electricity. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a very good one.
Oh, I have another one.
Oh, you have another one? Go for
Dirty
it.
dishes in the sink.
That's my
just
most
put them in the
favorite
dishwasher.
too. Yes.
Dirty
it's
dishes
so
in the
close.
sink.
It's
Yeah.
right there. Why not just put
It's
it in
so
the dishwasher?
close. And if you don't rinse it before you put it in the sink, it's on. Yeah.
It's on. That's terrible.
It's on. Yeah.
Those are both very good ones. I agree. What's something in your home that makes your life easier?
Oh my goodness. What's that makes my life easier? The dishwasher. I spent a lot of time in my 20s without having a dishwasher. And for somebody who doesn't like dirty dishes, is a lot of work.
Very true. Who's someone you admire who you think really lives well?
My goodness, someone I admire who really lives well. My husband, David. He's an artist, so he lives every day to the fullest.
Amazing. What a great answer. What inspires you to live better?
My children.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate you talking to me. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This was so much fun, and I appreciate you creating the space and coming home with me today.
Thank you to Nyakio Grieco for welcoming us today, and be sure to follow along with her at Nyakio on Instagram. I'm Kristen Twyford, and if you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll subscribe now to Make Yourself at Home and leave us a review. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, household management software that helps you manage your properties and everything that comes with them, so you can make the most of your time at home. Learn more at ninesliving.com.